So this was the first time I ever took a standardized test. And when the results came back, my teacher called my parents, and everyone got really excited. And they said, "Oh, Lisa, you can do whatever you want now. You can be a doctor or a lawyer or a business executive." And I went forth on that path, and I pursued all of the attractive and non-attractive things that came with, like marching band. And the whole time, I felt a very subtle hand on my back, and it was the hand of expectation. And it was saying, "Lisa, this is the path of who you can be." And I felt out of control, and I felt like I could only control one thing, and that was food. So I stopped eating, and I stood sideways so you couldn't see how big I was. And I thought, I also have to be small, I have to act small, and I have to do what everybody says. And then I went from high school, and I graduated, and I was first in my class, and I went to college, and I still stood sideways. And I did all the things, and I was the happy girl, and I applied to graduate school, and I was still unhappy, and I couldn't find anything that would make me feel good. But I kept going because that was the path they told me. And then I was in my 20s, and I was married and divorced, and I was living a mediocre life of meeting the expectations of being the gifted child. And I was sad, and I didn't know what to do, so I went to a coffee shop, and I saw something that changed my life. It was a flyer for a dance class, and it was these three women, the belly dancer, her daughter in utero, who's a belly dancer, and on her shoulders is my first belly dance teacher, and her name is Piper. And they taught me something. They taught me a different way that women could be powerful, and women could be expressive. And in a fitness club in Baltimore, behind the treadmill and behind the weights, I saw a different way of being a woman. And I saw that I didn't necessarily have to meet all these expectations. And I got a whole new group of role models in my life. And I learned that wearing the least amount in the room and in bare feet, like Fifi Abdu from Egypt, that you can express yourself and you can hold all the power in the room. And I got a whole new group of role models, people from my culture who were defying expectations. And they were saying, whispering in my ear, "Lisa, you can do whatever you want. You don't necessarily need to go down that path." So I stepped up, and I thought, do I have to keep being small and have to keep standing sideways? And I thought, maybe I don't. And I jumped off the cliff, and I started taking off things and thinking, maybe I don't need to meet these expectations. Maybe, underneath it all, I always had a little bit of sparkle. And maybe I didn't have to be that person, and maybe that wasn't my expression. And maybe there was another girl in there. And maybe this is where my power was. And I thought, what if I didn't care what anybody thought? And what if I just thought that by moving my body, I could say more than anything I'd ever said before? And maybe it was time to just let my hair down and think about what I could do. And I thought maybe I could stop thinking about what everybody was saying that I had to do, and I could find a way to speak to the world in a different way. And when I did that, something really amazing happened. I was happy. And I started standing forward, and I started saying, "You're welcome that my hips are this big, and you're welcome that I can do this." And that little girl in the tutu got happy again. She discovered all the things that made her feel like she could express herself. And she stood in the desert, and she thought, this is me. And I learned that by dancing, that's when I was the closest to God. And I learned that by expressing myself and standing, partially clothed, in a room full of people in bare feet, that I felt powerful. And something else amazing happened. I learned that I could share this. And I learned that by moving with other women, they could discover their power. And I learned that maybe I could talk a little less and move a little more, and people could learn how to feel good about themselves. And something else really amazing happened. I learned about my own history, and I learned that belly dance is a real dance from real people, from real countries. And I got to go to Egypt and stand in the desert, and I thought, this is where I'm from. And I thought, this is how I can express myself and be one of the culture keepers of this beautiful place. And I turned 40, and I should have been leaving my law office and going home to celebrate with my husband and my children. And I took that, and I threw it out of the window. And I celebrated by dancing, and I celebrated by moving, and I celebrated by being okay with myself. And I celebrated by sitting in the desert at 40 years old and being like, belly dance gave me everything. It gave me love, it gave me a sense of myself, and it gave me a place. This year, somebody asked me a question, and they said, does it bother you that people don't know how smart you are with your job? And I said, this is my home, this is my expression, and this is what I'm meant to do.